Hello. So today's video is just gonna be about I live alone, and so before I had my stroke, I did not have anything set up. And you really should, if you live alone, you should have stuff set up so that if stuff, if something just happened to you, people can access stuff. My family wasn't able to access my ring and my cardinals and my phone. Even I mean, you don't think about these things. You don't think it's anything. You don't think anything is gonna happen to you. So that was a rough. They had to figure it out because I was unconscious for like a month and a half, almost 2 months, and so they had no idea how to do anything, and I had everything locked down for safety, and so it was hard for them to figure out what they needed to do. So if you are somebody that is alone, you should have a plan because you never know what's going to happen. You think you think it'll be fine. You think that that your family nobody's going to ever have to go your stuff, but you never know. I did not know, you know, and unfortunately I had to set up anything, and it was very difficult for them. And that's the problem, part of my probably my fault. It is my fault. I wanted to come and tell y'all today. If you live alone, you should probably have somebody over your accounts because you never know what's going to happen. I didn't have anybody over my stuff. And so they had to try to figure it out the best way they could while I was unconscious. And we never think anything is going to happen to us. We think, oh, we're going to be fine, but you never know. You never know what the world, what life is going to do. I did not know I was going to have a stroke. I went to sleep that night, and I, planned to sleep. I had no idea any of this was going to happen. So if you live by yourself, you should think about that because you never know what's going to happen. And sometimes stuff happens, and then people can't access your things, and they may need to. You know, it was really hard for them. Trying to pay my rent and all my bills because I pay all my bills online, so nothing really comes to the house. And so they were like, nothing is coming. We can't do anything because we don't know what the accounts are. And like I said, we think we're going to live forever. And so it wasn't something that I thought about. It wasn't something that I considered. And so it was something that was really hard for them to do. You know, um, my bank accounts and stuff, they didn't have access to any of that stuff. And so they had to figure out how to, keep my house and keep the lights on. Even like, water, your utilities, that kind of thing. They did not know who I used. They did not know. They don't live, one of my mom doesn't live in Birmingham. So she did not know that Birmingham Waterworks is the one who always does the water. She had no idea. And so they had to try to figure stuff out. So I say to you, if you are alone, it's probably best that you have somebody like leave some information for people to be able to figure stuff out if they need to. You never know. You never know. Um, I hope everybody stays safe, and I hope that this never is something that you have to deal with. But if it is, then it will be very difficult for your family. So you know, set up the accounts and stuff. You have somebody that you trust. Just to make sure they have access because they might need. We always think, oh, we're not gonna worry about it, but it happens. You never know. My family had to figure it out, and it was rough. Um, they figured it out though, thankfully. But in the event that they were not able to for the 2 months that I was, unconscious, it's not like they could ask me. I was asleep, and so yeah, yeah. If you are by yourself, or even if you're not by yourself, if you're like you have a husband, make sure that he knows how to access everything because he would need to they had no clue how to get everything done because I did not set up stuff for it to be figured out. Unfortunately, I forgot. I just didn't think about it. I didn't think anything was gonna happen to me. I figured I will always be here to handle my stuff, and you think that, but you don't know. Like I said, I did not do anything, or like I said in the previous video, it wasn't blood pressure, it wasn't cholesterol, so it's not like it's something that I would know or that I could have had an idea was gonna happen. I had no clue, and so and they had no access, and they needed access, and you never know when somebody's gonna need to have access to your accounts, and so somebody that you trust. I would have done my mom or somebody like that because she would have known what to do. I should have done that, but I thought, oh, it's gonna be fine. I didn't think anything was ever gonna happen to me or any of my things, and so I just never thought about it. I have no problem with her having access to stuff. I just never, it never crossed my mind that something could happen to me where I would not be able to handle my business for a certain amount of time. And so they had to try to figure it out. And y'all probably saw, maybe not, maybe my cousin started a GoFundMe because they had no access to anything to try to get some help to try to pay these things. And so once they figured out my rent and stuff, you need money for that, and and so they had to figure that part out too. And so a lot of stuff they had to just pay for because they had no access, and I had the money, mm, but nobody had access to it. And so if you are by yourself, or even if you're not by yourself, even if you have a partner and you have people in your house, they need to know how to access stuff. It never needs to be just one person because you never know. I mean, yeah, both people could get impacted, but it usually is one or the other, or it happens, it happens one at a time. And so making sure that you have stuff in place is really important. I wish I had, because it it was a difficult thing for them to have to do. I mean, it's already hard. They're already trying to take care of their loved one, and then they're trying to take care of all the business stuff. And I have a business, and they didn't know what to do because I left nothing, no instructions or nothing. So if you are alone, just make sure somebody knows how to, because if they don't, then you will it'll be bad. You don't want to be like me. I realized the other day I'm making these videos so that in the event that something happens, you'll know what to do. So that's one of the things, um having somebody over your accounts and stuff, so that it can be accessed if they can't, I just ask you, because sometimes that's not possible. I was unconscious, so they could not, like I said, they could not just ask me, because I was not even of the world anymore. The doctors didn't know if I was gonna wake up or whatever. It was horrible. I'm very thankful that they were able to figure everything out. But in the event that they had been, I could be in a really bad position right now, and I'm not, only because they were able to figure it out. So, you know, just for your own information, if it's, if whatever it is, whatever is in your life that's important to you, make sure somebody else knows how to access it if they need to, because you never know. Because I didn't know. I had no clue. I went to sleep and I thought it was going to be like any other night. And then I didn't wake up for like 2 months. And so you never know, you know. So yeah, but I'm doing well. I went to church yesterday, so I was able to get out of the house, and that was cool. You know, people got to see me. I graduated to a walker, a cane. I mean, I had a walker. I'm sitting in a wheelchair now, just because it's easier. But I don't. I can stand and I can walk and I can do all the stuff that I need to. Um, yeah. I just wanted to come today to give you that little warning. If you're like me, you probably haven't shared anything, because why would you? What for what? You never think anything's gonna happen. Nobody does, but stuff happens. Things happen to people. You never know. And so, in the event that something happens, so you always be covered. Just make sure that somebody knows. Somebody somewhere needs to know how to access your things if you are unable to be able to do that. Even, like I said, it needs to be somebody you trust. It doesn't need to just be any or everybody. Obviously, it's your finances, so it's really important. A parent, a sibling, somebody, anything, anybody. Somebody that knows what to do in the event that you become incapacitated. I never considered that, because I was like, oh, I'm young. I got time. I'll figure it out. I'll do, but I didn't have as much time as I thought I did. And you probably don't either. So, just in case, you know, just if you're watching this video, go today and try to set up everything for somebody, anybody in your life that you trust, that will handle things for you if you are ever in a situation where you're unable to. You never know. You never know. So no matter how old you are, if you're alone, somebody needs to know how to access stuff. Somebody may have to take care of things if you're unable to. So like I said, you just make sure they know how to access the things that they need to. That's all I wanted to say. Um, okay, bye bye. Hmm.